Please welcome Anita Sarkeesian.
Make me cry up here. Hi. I'm Anita Sarkeesian, as you already know, apparently. So I run an educational nonprofit organization called Feminist Frequency, and as part of that project, I host an ongoing series of long-form video essays on YouTube analyzing the representations of women in popular video games. Now, video games are kind of a big deal these days. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry with an enormous impact on our larger cultural landscape. What you may not know is that gaming and gaming communities are currently undergoing a massive paradigm shift. The cultural, political, and economic structures of the medium are in the process of fundamentally transforming. While women have always played and made games, for several decades the industry catered almost exclusively to a straight, white, male demographic. This is no longer the case. The new reality is that gaming is becoming a more diverse and inclusive environment for everyone. That metamorphosis is happening slowly and sometimes painfully, but it's happening. This is great news. However, I'm here today to share a little bit about the phenomenon of very vocal, aggressive, mostly male gamers who are unwilling or unable to accept this new reality. Their reactionary response can only be described as a massive and terrifying assault directed at the female fans, developers, and critics who feel they are destroying games. I imagine they feel something like this.
Where the video games? I can't breathe.
So, as some of you may already know, my video series exploring topics such as the damsel in distress has been met with critical acclaim and positive responses from gamers and developers alike. But it has also been accompanied by a fair amount of anger. That's me you can't see because it's so bright in here, but I have like glowing red eyes. In fact, over the last 2 years, I've been made into something of a folk demon by some very angry men, especially those that hang out on certain parts of Reddit and 4chan. They have figuratively and literally concluded that I'm some kind of Disney villain who is personally responsible for the ongoing transformation of the gaming industry. Of course, I'm definitely not in charge of this cultural shift. No one person is. But in their delusion, they've decided to believe that if they take me out, all will return to normal. So for the last 2 years, they have viciously and aggressively come after me by any means necessary. These next couple of slides are pretty graphic. I've been attacked with a constant torrent of grotesque misogynist harassment, everything from gendered hate speech to weaponized pornography, where they superimpose my face on pornographic images and then spam me with them, to bomb threats, rape threats, and death threats directed at me and my family and my colleagues. And there are ongoing investigations taking place for the worst of these crimes. So those are pretty clear and obvious forms of misogyny. Today, however, I'd like to talk to you about some of the more subtle forms of sexism that are not as obviously recognizable as the overt threats and slurs we saw a moment ago. Specifically, I'd like to focus on 2 strategies that these harassers have used in defaming me and my project: online impersonation and spreading conspiracy theories. I'm going to deconstruct my own experience to illustrate how this works in practice, but it's certainly not unique to me. The tactics of defamation are used as weapons to try and undermine the work and credibility of women in gaming and geek and tech-oriented subcultures. And for many women, including myself, slander and libel are the background radiation of our daily lives on the internet. So, the first, impersonation. Impersonation is a favored tactic employed to try and discredit women, especially feminists, who are often depicted as evil, man-hating feminazis. Because my work is straightforward, textual analysis delivered in a calm, analytical tone, and because I don't resemble that caricature, detractors often fabricate false quotes out of thin air in order to stereotype me as a more familiar villain. The creating of fake social media accounts on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook are common practice. The impersonation accounts steal and use my logos, my image, and my name to then post inflammatory or provocative statements. Let's look at a few examples. This very poorly photoshopped fake tweet was trying to imply that somehow I embezzled money from my Kickstarter funds for personal gain. This image was featured on Reddit, I think about a year ago, and quickly went viral, partially because it fits in nicely within this pre-existing sexist notion about women stealing from hardworking men in order to buy expensive shoes. I'm still getting hate mail about this a year later. For the record, these are the only shoes I'd ever consider paying $1,000 for.
Gentlemen, I give you the long fall bid. I'm not going to lie to you, it's expensive as hell. But check this out. We told this test subject to just go ahead and try to land on her head. She can't do it. Good work, Boots. So anyway, we're between banks right now. Just make those checks out to cash. Cave Johnson, we're done here.
So there's some Portal fans in here. It's a great game. Okay, so another example is a couple years ago I gave a talk at DICE, the game studio in Sweden that's responsible for the Battlefield series, as well as one of my favorite games, Mirror's Edge. Any fans, Mirror's Edge? Yeah. This was a private event for employees only. However, that did not stop some industrious harassers from creating and leaking a fake report about what I supposedly said. The gist of it is a completely made-up quote saying that Mirror's Edge is misogynist because the control scheme is too hard for female gamers. The ironic thing here is that not only did I never say that, but I actually have no problem with the game's control schemes, and apparently they do. Like the fake shoes tweet, this one has been widely distributed and accepted as fact in many corners of the internet. Again, even though it comes from 4chan, I receive regular hate mail about this every day. Or not every day, but often. Okay, here are two more ridiculous fake quotes. One is decrying the much-beloved gaming company Valve. I don't know who would believe this is true because that is so much more than 140 characters. Just saying. The other is stating that I believe murder is somehow not that bad, combined with a photo they stole from my personal Flickr account. So these are just a few examples, but what's important to understand is how quickly they become part of what is sometimes referred to as an information cascade. Information cascades occur when people rapidly repeat or share information from others without first verifying its validity. So falsehoods about me are initially pushed by detractors who use them to spam 4chan and Reddit as a way of provoking rage and rallying more people to join the crusade against me. As the disinformation spreads through social media, it takes on a life of its own. It's bouncing from Twitter to Facebook to Tumblr to YouTube and back again. Once the cascade reaches a critical mass, it no longer matters what the facts are, it becomes a viral meme. These hoaxes work to reinforce that folk demon narrative about me, right? The one that I mentioned earlier, because it's turning me into the embodiment of the most extreme, irrational stereotype of feminism possible. The fake quotes also gain traction in the information cascade because they play on and help rationalize pre-existing paranoid fears about feminist interlopers and women invading video games. All of this becomes a part of the mythological canon of my villainy, supposedly proving that I really am as bad as they think, which then serves as justification for further and more extreme forms of harassment. Given the prevalence of these impersonation-style hoaxes, it might not come as a surprise for you to learn that there are also a number of internet conspiracy theories about me and my work floating around out there. Now, when I say conspiracy theories, I'm talking full-on tinfoil hat, chemtrails, 9/11, truthers, birthers type conspiracy theories. It's the kind of delusional belief subscribed to by those who are unable or unwilling to accept a changing reality. So, conspiracy theory number one. Anita Sarkeesian bleached her skin to appear more white, and she learned to smile like a white person in order to become popular. There's more. Then she used sophisticated neurolinguistic programming techniques to brainwash members of the gaming industry into seeing sexism where none really exists. This one comes courtesy of an obsessive fellow fond of ranting into his webcam while sporting a bathrobe. He has made over 60 YouTube rants about me, and some of those diatribes clock in at over 4 hours. Yeah, I wish I was kidding. So, my family is from Iraq. I'm proud to be Armenian. There are some very pernicious racial assumptions contained in the idea that I'm falsely portraying myself as white, though it falls under the broader umbrella of painting me as deceptive, that I am concealing dangerous truths about myself that need to be exposed. In this case, my olive skin and my Middle Eastern roots. As for the charge of brainwashing, I'm sorry to say there are no subliminal mind control blipverts embedded in my educational video essays, but I do like to think that my rhetorical arguments are pretty good. Thank you. So this one is clearly ridiculous, but that's just the more hilarious tip of the iceberg, which leads us into some less funny and more harmful conspiracy theories built on a foundation of victim blaming and deep-seated misogyny. Conspiracy theory number 2. Anita Sarkeesian is not a real gamer or even a real feminist. She's actually a con artist who fakes and orchestrates her own harassment in order to gain sympathy, which she uses to scam people into giving her money. It is kind of funny because it's so ridiculous. This is by far the most popular theory and takes one of 2 forms. One is Anita provokes the harassment on purpose by trolling and tricking the poor innocent kids on 4chan into harassing and threatening her. Version 2 is similar but takes it a step further. Anita fakes the threats and harassment she receives on a regular basis, either by sending these threats to herself via sock puppet accounts or by enlisting an army of feminists to do it for her. Where is that army? Seriously. So these scenarios are patently ridiculous, of course. I've been playing games since I was 5 years old, and I have never posted anything on 4chan in my life, nor will I ever, nor should any of you. Because honestly, the site is really just a cyber cesspool functioning as an incubator for misogyny. Yeah. So, as a side note, 4chaners do have a fondness for impersonating me as a way to troll each other into harassing me further. So this is an example of someone posting on 4chan pretending to be me, and they stole a photo from my Flickr account to do it. Okay, so remember those graphic rape and death threats I showed earlier? After I shared a few of these death threats on Twitter, this is how a surprisingly large number of gamers reacted. Beyond the shocking inability to show any empathy for women who are being harmed, we see an aggressive denial of women's experiences. Notice the paranoid language of false flag operations, which are commonly found in other political conspiracy theories. It is sometimes easier to believe unlikely or even ludicrous distortions of reality than it is to abandon or change a deeply held perspective. These theories are born out of a desire to explain away contradictions that don't fit neatly into these gamers' pre-existing worldview that gaming is and should continue to be the domain of young heterosexual men. The perpetrators do not see themselves as perpetrators at all. Instead, they see themselves as noble warriors fighting to save gaming from all those who dare suggest it ever change or grow up or mature. Conspiracy theories and impersonation hoaxes can often seem inconsequential or trivial, but they have the potential to shape and influence perceptions of reality and blur the lines between true and false. The constant flood of distortions has a snowball effect, wherein bits and pieces of disinformation can become surprisingly sticky. They slowly become accepted as part of the larger cultural myth around me in ways that shape public perception. And these theories and hoaxes pour over into every aspect of the harassment campaign against me. For every bit of harassment, every doxing attempt, every attack with pornographic images, with every death or rape threat I receive, you'll find these same type of conspiracy theories springing up in response. Each new accusation of false flags or faking threats and abuse building on the last one in a circular feedback loop. For these detractors, it is easier to believe that I'm a skin-bleaching, mind-controlling, video game-hating scam artist involved in a masterful long con than it is to believe that the tide is turning in gaming and that larger numbers of developers and fans are challenging the sexist status quo and embracing the ideas and critiques expressed in my work and the work of many other women doing the same cultural criticism. Conspiracy theories are often driven by an underlying fear of authority. This particular paranoia about feminists taking over video games is further fueled by a deep underlying distrust of women. There is a prevailing feeling among an alarming number of men that women with any degree of perceived power, success, or influence do not deserve their positions in male-dominated fields, and that therefore they must be using manipulative or duplicitous means to gain and hold on to those positions. When women experience harassment and harm, we are blamed for the abuse we receive and regularly told that we were either asking for it or inventing it entirely. Again, what I've described to you today is not unique to me and my experience. Every day, many women voicing their opinions online deal with a similar flood of slander and defamation designed to undermine their careers, their credibility, their resolve, and their confidence. So I leave you with one simple thought. One of the most radical things you can do is to actually believe women when they tell you about their experiences. Thank you. Thank you so much.